Hey viewer, I was spreading beauty around the world yesterday when a thought creeped into my head. What is a man? Who knows? In recent times, though, there has been a lot of talk about the role of femininity and women in politics. For a very long time, the role of women in politics was ignored. So it is about time for us to have a good and in-depth discussion regarding women in politics. Feminism has encouraged this dialogue, and one of the concerns feminism brought forth was that the norms of politics was considered to be masculine by default. However, because we presume that politics is innately masculine, we never asked what is masculinity or what are masculine qualities. We just presume they are what the norm is, and nobody really questions the norm. Don't worry though. I, like Dracula before me, am here to help you understand yourself. We will be talking about one particular attitude, courage, that has been historically associated with masculinity, and try to understand its relation with liberalism. If you're an online basement dweller, you will probably see people either yelling from the rooftops that everything bad in the world is because of toxic masculinity or feminization of men. Us good Rawls-loving liberals know that the world is more complicated than either of these perspectives attest. We tend to look for a boogeyman to blame all the problems of the world on, but that is too simplistic. The fact of the matter is this. A healthy political system, like a healthy individual, must possess both what we call masculine and feminine qualities in moderation, and having too much of either is not a good thing. Too much of anything is not a good thing for you, which is why you have a wooden spoon-shaped silhouette on the back of your hand. Liberalism has both masculine and feminine elements, which are all imperative for its proper functioning. In fact, one of the core elements of liberalism, tolerance, is considered a feminine quality. However, despite tolerance being primarily a feminine trait, men also need it. Otherwise, every time a kid would do something wrong, their dad would burn the entire house down. Tolerance is something all human beings need in their lives to some extent. This principle applies to masculine traits as well. And the particular trait I want to focus on is courage. Besides Rawls, I really like Hannah Arendt, and she has some really interesting thoughts on the role of courage in politics, which has inspired my own thinking on the subject matter. For those of you interested, Barnes College's Hannah Arendt Center for Politics and Humanities has an entire YouTube series dedicated to the concept of courage. Arguably, this is one of the most important masculine traits we all employ in our daily lives. Politics also needs courage, and unfortunately today's liberalism severely lacks it. So what is courage? Courage in politics means having the willpower to think critically in the face of the odds. Just like an addict leaving their League of Legends game to meet your mother, a courageous person in politics would not only stand up and defend the values they believe in, but also are open to questioning them. The latter is arguably more important than the former. There is a huge stigma attached to people who change their ideas, especially when they have been championing those ideas for a very long time. We call them grifters or people with no principles. But the fact that some would change their minds because they have been presented with information that disproves their previously held beliefs, despite all the negative feedback, should be a quality worthy of admiration. In fact, in the realm of content creation, which I am totally in, by the way, there is a word which encapsulates this phenomenon quite well: audience capture. When you have been gearing your content towards a specific audience, you now have a financial incentive to not change your opinion, even if you believe them to be wrong, out of the fear that you will take a financial hit. Same thing applies to politicians and normal citizens. When you have bought into an idea and have sank a lot of time or money or brain power into it, then you feel an obligation to continue to defend it, even if the idea is wrong. So, not only are there external forces that push you to not change your ideas, there are also internal mechanisms that are preventing you from changing them as well. This is where courage becomes important. Arendt says that courage is to put the world before yourself, and I believe what she meant is to have courage to be wrong. When you stand back and think about it, we change our minds from the time you're born all the way until the time we start using canes to walk around. And if you don't, people may think there's something wrong with you, We call this process becoming mature. The same principle needs to apply to our political opinions. When faced with contrary facts, we should readjust our opinions, and this is what courage really is: the brevity of admitting one is wrong. When discussing courage, people falsely assume that the opposite of courage is cowardice, but that is only partially true. The opposite of courage is cowardice and recklessness, a source which is incredibly prevalent in our contemporary liberal political society. When people are scared, they retreat back to their ideological bubble and defend it with the passion of 1,000 suns. However, when they are reckless, they don't really think about their ideas deeply and instead adopt them in the heat of the moment, or because the ideas are coming from a source they admire. Because they haven't really thought these ideas thoroughly, they don't really know the implications of them, but they will defend them with equal vivacity, like that of a coward. If you open up Twitter, you can see a lot of people from all sides of the political aisle who fit these descriptions. But here's the thing, my dear Belmonts. Unlike Dracula, who misunderstood man so long ago, we should not succumb to the same temptation. The fact of the matter is, both sides are equally in the wrong and in the right, because no one individual or group understands the whole truth, but only parts of it. It's like Bill Burr says, you have to befriend as many people as you can from as many different communities as you can, because everyone gets something right, but no one gets the whole picture. So, by hearing the opposite view, you might actually see some of the shortcomings of your own way of thought and try to fix it. This is the essence of political courage, understanding that we are all human, and humans make mistakes and are incomplete, but if they are brave enough, they can slowly reach for perfection. Reaching perfection requires acceptance of the fact that change is inevitable, because at any point one can be wrong. Now, this doesn't mean accepting everything you hear. There is a difference between an open mind and an empty one, after all, but it does mean keeping the possibility of being wrong open and accepting our own fallibility. With that said, who's up for some Castlevania?